Hey guys, welcome to another WoW Weekly with Myst. I hope everyone's been having fun in Shadowlands. And this week's events will be Wintervale, which is the Christmas event, of course. That is going to be starting up on December 16th, and that will run all the way to January 2nd. A very fun event. All the achievements are fairly easy for Wintervale, so you can get them all done in the same year. Next up is LFR will be opening up this week, and the first wing will be open. And on the topic of raids, we will have Mythic raids opened up. And then we also have the Mythic Weekly. So this is 4 Mythic dungeons is generally what they've done in the past, so it should be the same. And that is basically it for the weekly events. Pretty mellow, especially if you've done Wintervale before. It'll be pretty mellow. If you haven't, Wintervale will probably keep you pretty busy. Like I said, you can get everything done in the 1 year. But you will spend those 2 weeks getting everything done if you've never gone into Wintervale, because some of it does involve some PvP. So, yeah. And that calls it for the weekly events. Next up, my progression and goals. So, progression this week was pretty good. I got my second character to level 60, so my lock on Horde side is level 60. Generally, she's the first one I level after the main because she's on another side. That's basically the sole reason. It's not because she was my first alt, although that is a big, a big pro, I guess. But the biggest reason is that she's on Horde side, so now I can play with any of my friends, right? I main Alliance, but a lot of my friends play Horde. And so that's why I keep a Horde character over there. And so now that she's 60 and, starting to gear and stuff, I can now play with anyone, my Alliance friends, my Horde friends. So very happy to have gotten her there. She went to the Necro Covenant because I want her to start working on cloth gear. So all in all, I didn't really like any of the Covenant features for the lock. The Necro didn't have too bad of an ability for her. But yeah, all in all, I thought all the choices for the lock were kind of crap. But that is where she is, and she's now going to be mainly working on the gear. I don't really care what happens with the board over there, because as far as the board goes, like if there's gear that she can use, of course she'll do a mission for the board and all that, but I'm taking care of all those achievements over on my main character, so her main purpose is to be in that Covenant to be able to buy the cloth gear for Necro. And yeah, so that is that. And of course she is gearing because she's in a raiding guild, so I like to keep her up to par for when I raid with them. So that is basically the progression. I'm pretty happy with the progression. I think it went really well this week, and I am still on the level grind. The progression was great, but we are still going. I still have 2 more Covenants that we need to join. Well, there's definitely a lot of characters left to level, but priority is the 2 other Covenants, which is Curian and Venthyr. I've already picked out the characters that are taking care of that. It's going to be the Hunter that is going to go to Curian, and I'm also leveling my Rogue that's going to Venthyr. This also works out perfectly because they have 2 different primary professions. So my Rogue's an engineer, my Hunter is a jewel crafter. That's the progression and the goal. So I'm pretty happy where I'm sitting. You know, the main has been a lot of focus for me. So that's why there's just one other leveled right now. I could easily had probably 4 or 5 leveled right now if I just leveled. If I like leveled to 60 and then stopped, moved on to the next level 60, yeah, I could easily had a bunch. But I have been progressing the Druid so that she was able to get into raids on day 1. And yeah, as far as the raids go, they have definitely upped the difficulty of the raids, for sure. Normal seemed a little strong in comparison to the past many years. And yeah, how I feel regarding that, I don't know. It's like on one side of things, I'm happy that it's a little stronger, but honestly, my thoughts with the way that the difficulty is, it really depends on the type of raider you are, right? On Alliance, I pug a lot of raids, and on Horde, I have a raiding guild. So it depends on what your situation is. As for the Alliance, I find it can be rough because I'm pugging a lot of it out, and because our guild it's growing, but it's not growing high enough that we have like 20 people logged on at a time. I'm very stubborn and I refuse to move my Druid out of the guild I created back in BC. And the people that are over on the Alliance side are the people I really want to play with. You know, they are the main reason I group up at all. So with that said, I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to my Druid because I won't move out of the guild. You know, I am guild master, so, and I won't transfer her. So really, the only way she's ever going to be in a committed team is by growing that guild and getting that guild back to being a raiding team. It used to be back in the day, but a lot of people have quit WoW since then. And yeah, so on that side of things, the difficulty can be rough. But over on my Horde character, it doesn't matter. She's in a guild that raids. Everyone communicates together. They're always there week after week, so we know that people know the fights. So it's really a whole different equation. It depends on whether you have a raiding guild or you don't. You know, if you're pugging it out, you're probably not going to get much done on this difficulty that it's sitting at right now. But if you're in a guild and you guys all communicate together, I don't think this is really a big deal. It's just a bit tougher, but with communication, you can get past it. So those are my thoughts on that. So it's not one answer answers all. It really just depends on how you raid and who you raid with. Okay, so for progression on the Druid, I have made some changes to my Druid. And that is that I have started gearing her for resto. So I still love my Boomkin, don't get me wrong. Like, I love that spec forever. And, when I'm out there on my own, I gotta be in Boomkin anyway. Gotta be in some spec I can, kill things with, right? But I have decided to go the resto route this expansion for raids and mythics. My motivator was actually Torghast because Arsenal was having some issues doing Torghast solo. And so I went in the first time with my DPS, and my DPS is pretty good, but they do strengthen the Torghast when you're grouped up. And then it dawned on me that, maybe we could do it as a guild group, and I be heals, and then everyone else is up there fighting, and it would be a lot easier, right? So so yeah, that was definitely the motivator. And then I set up the resto and I decided to just go give it a shot. So I went into Castle Nathria and healed the first boss, and that one went pretty good. And yeah, I haven't hopped in a Mythic this week, so I haven't really tested it out there, but I'm comfortable with the spec. I Yeah, it's been a while since I've healed on the Druid. My Shaman healer is usually my go-to, but I was really enjoying it actually. It's a spec I loved back in the day, but then when they changed the way tree form was, I was like, fuck this, I'm going back to Boomkin, and I never looked back. So yeah. But yeah, so that is what I've been doing with the Druid. Also, Maya, if you are listening, I know you've been leveling your monk for heals because you want to heal the mythic pluses for us. You can still do that. The change for this druid is mainly guild related. It's for our guild activities. But whenever we're doing stuff on stream, like through the community and stuff, you can heal. I'll go back to Boomkin. Yeah. That has not changed at all. So this wouldn't be the first expansion where I gear 2 specs with my druid. It's one of the reasons I love the druid is because I can do that and play a different spec. So last expansion, it was Boomkin and Guardian that I was gearing, and this expansion it'll be Boomkin and Resto. So yeah, Boomkin's still the main in my mind, in my head, but Resto will help us out as a guild. So that's basically all that's been going on with me and my druid. I've just been kind of fiddling around with the resto, getting familiar with it again, and I think it's going really well. Like in the raid I was top heals, and in Torghast, Arsenal stayed alive, so cool. So yeah, I think we're good with that one. Next up, we're going to talk about the Castle Nathria loot drop. So apparently too much loot has been dropping in the raid. I never got any loot when I went in there, so I guess I just had crap luck, but apparently other people are getting a shit ton of loot. They have decided to do a hot fix to reduce that, so on Tuesday you will maybe see less loot dropping from the raid. Okay, so the next piece of news that I have for you guys isn't totally WoW related, but it can affect WoW. And some of you guys may have noticed this because of my last stream that I did, but there was recently an Nvidia update. This video here was recorded before I did the temporary fix, so you may notice right in this recording. Depends how much I edit out. If you see things flickering, that was the graphics update. I had to change things in the setting to get that to stop. So the newest Nvidia update is causing a lot of things to flicker in WoW. And yeah, I noticed big time when I was streaming because I was finishing off the leveling with the lock, and I was out in Revendreth, which is a pretty heavy tree area, and I could barely even level out there. It was getting annoying to look at the scenery. So, with that said, I have found a temporary fix until they fix whatever's going on. So, if you have done the update as well and you're seeing some flickering going on, all you have to do is go into your settings there and change it from DX12 to DX11. The issue seems to be directly attached to the DX12. So the minute I changed it to DX11, which was after this video, but you'll see in the next stream that everything's back to normal. But when you change it to DX11, it's all fixed pretty much. Yeah. So it's definitely something to do with DX12. So hopefully they will, get another update out there to fix that. Okay, next up we have some Mythic news, Mythic Dungeon news. And that is that a team on the NA servers has already gotten the mount for doing a 15 on every dungeon this season, which is just crazy. Like, yeah, it's crazy that there's already a group out there that has that mount. It is a typical team, honestly. The team consisted of a hunter, demon hunter, druid, mage, and rogue. Most of the best mythic teams do have a resto druid. You know right away that was a resto druid because none of those other classes can heal. So, yeah, guaranteed resto druid right there. And then the tank obviously was the demon hunter, which is pretty typical. And having a hunter in your group as DPS is always a perk, always. And mage always does really good DPS as well. Plus, having a mage in the group allows them to have hero. So that definitely is a big perk and probably helped them out in a lot of cases here. So that, of course, leaves them with a really good score as well. Doing all the 15s on there got them a 1300 IO score. And one of the dungeons was actually a 16. The 16 was the Myst dungeon, which honestly is, I would think that would be the worst one. But in a planned group, maybe not so much because you're in voice. You can, shout out which areas to hit because there's that maze part, right? And if someone hits the wrong part of the maze, then it resets and you're back at the beginning, right? So, yeah, that's the one reason I'm not looking forward to doing those on higher keys, the Mysts dungeon. I like it because it's a short dungeon, but I don't like the maze when it's timed. And on the topic of mythics, this week we will get our very first vault. For those that aren't familiar with the vault, it isn't too late. I do post these videos on Monday, so if you see this video today, you can still get something done today in order to get your vault reward tomorrow. I like the new vault system because it's not just Mythic Plus based now. You can do basically every other content because a lot of the time you're either a Mythic Plus person, a raider, or a PvPer. If you're all of the above, you're mediocre with all of the above. Not too many people are like high end on all three of those, but most people strive in one of those three. So it allows you to do what you normally would do. Like, I remember last expansion, I had made the comment of, oh, it's too bad these PvPers get like squat, right? So now you can do, for raids, you can do 3 raid bosses, 7 or 10. Mythics, you can do 1, 4, and 10. And then PvP, it goes off honor points for rated PvP. So you will go 1250, 2500, and 6250. For those that are maybe a little confused, because it can be a little overwhelming looking at it. I know a lot of people think you're getting multiple rewards and stuff like this. It says right there, once per week, you may select a single reward. So basically, we haven't seen it yet, but by the time some of you guys see this video, you will have opened up your vault. But the way that I'm reading that is, these will light up as you're doing things, right? So if you did, like, say, the Mythic Dungeon 1 and 4, those would be lit up. And then on Tuesday, I imagine you go to the vault and you click on whichever loot. Obviously you'd want to click on the best. If you guys don't know where this vault is, it's right in the Hall of Holding. And it's the big door, which I remember in a stream, I was like, oh, I bet you eventually this door opens. Yeah, at the time I had no idea it was the vault. Now, here is a little table in case you're interested in what loot drops from what, whether it's end of dungeon, weekly vault, and what keystone you would need. Also, there will be brimming anima orb for currency. And rumor is, the way I'm reading it, is that if you don't like the gear, you can take that instead. And that the brimming anima orb, it's 2 of them, and each one of them is 250 stored anima, which would help you get whatever you need over in your covenant. So all in all, I am liking the idea of the vault. I really like it for PvP because they now can get some decent gear out of it. Like, don't get me wrong, PvP did have its weekly thing last expansion, but it just was always crap, and it always was so much lower item level than you were even wearing. At least now they can compete with doing what they love to do. A lot of PvPers were forced into Mythic Pluses last expansion just so they could keep up. But I think of all people that this vault benefits the most is definitely the PvPers. I think they are probably the happiest that the vault exists. Now, one last thing I'd like to leave you guys with regarding the vault and stuff is this right here. I've screenshot the Legendaries. So you can get Legendaries out of the Great Vault. It is one of the rewards for every class. And these are the class and the Legendary attached to it. So definitely look at the list to see if it includes one that you're maybe after. And yeah, so this is also something you can get from the vault. Okay, and that concludes the news. And that pretty much concludes the video. The last thing that we are going to do is something new that I've started with the members that support my work here on the channel. So this is the Q&A section. So now what I've been doing is in the members tab, which is the community tab, but there's posts that everyone sees, and then there's some posts that only members see. And so Q&A is one of the ones that only members see. It's something I thought would be cool to do. I always thought it'd be cool to do a Q&A. And with it being this way, it's all in like one post, so I can just go to that one post and people, put their questions up. So for this week, Arsenal asks, why is Druid your favorite class? Now, this is a heavy question, actually, because this is a character I've been playing for 16 years. But at first glance, back in 2004, when I was looking through the character list, Druid just spoke to me. And yeah, Druid just was my love from day one. As more expansions came into the game, the Druid just became that all-in-one character. For those that maybe aren't aware, Guardian wasn't always part of Druid. Basically, it was Balance, Feral, and Resto. And yeah, so Guardian came in later. But the way it worked was in Feral, you could either be a bear or a cat. And tanking with a druid took some definite skill back then. Tanking was doable, even although a lot of people in vanilla didn't realize that, you could actually tank with a druid, but it was not easy. So now it's, you have so much flexibility. I think that's why I love the druid so much, is because if I want to do heavy duty DPS, I'm a boomkin. If I want to do mediocre DPS, sorry Feral players, I'll do Feral. If I want to heal, I go Resto. If my team maybe needs a tank, I go Guardian. I have played all the specs of a druid, and I'm pretty good at all the specs of a druid. It's been a lot of years, guys. I've been able to, master the druid more or less. I love my boomkin. Many of you guys have, heard me complain how people who glyph their boomkin to look like night elves are idiots because they're disrespecting their boomkin. So I think that probably tells you how much I do love the druid. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I'm trying to make it not the longest answer because I love my druid. So a question like that could make me ramble a bit, but druid is the best class in my opinion. Always has been. And in short form, my biggest loves with the druid is the shape-shifting. I love that I can be a bear, I can be a cat, I can be a tree, I can be a boomkin, I can go in night elf when I want, yeah. And I really love what they've done with, just to add a little extra, but I really love what they've done with the barbershop with the druids. Druids definitely, I feel they need the barbershop more than anyone. No offense to any classes that feel like they need the barbershop. But the reality is, for a lot of you other classes, when you transmog, you see your transmogs. For a druid, when you transmog, it's almost useless to transmog as a druid because you're always shapeshift. So to be able to have some cool features on your shapeshifts is a definite pro. My transmog I've had for years on my druid, and one of the biggest reasons I've probably held on to the same transmog for years without changing it is because why? I barely see that transmog as it is, so it's almost like it's always seems new to me because I'm always in boomkin or cat or bear because I sometimes tank. And that's one cool part of, doing some resto this expansion is that I'm gonna finally see my transmog. That is why I feel like the druid definitely benefits off the barbershop the most. But as a druid, we've been running around with the same cat, same bear, same this and that for a lot of years. It wasn't until Legion that we could actually change the way our, cats and bears looked, other than picking a different race, of course. Druid, ironically, I watch a lot of my friends change mains every expansion, and the druid has been my main since 2004. I have never changed my main character. Yeah, the druid has been the main character for the past 16 years. So that's why I don't really do, how a lot of YouTubers, before an expansion comes out, they'll do a video on what they're gonna maining. That's why I don't do those videos. It's not that I don't think of doing those videos, it's that I never change my main character. So there's no point in like reminding you guys that I play Druid, you know? Like, yeah, because that's basically what that video would be if I did it. So, a bit of a long answer, but that is why the Druid is my favorite class. There is just so much you can do with the Druid. Plus, I love Starfall. And yeah, and you know, and my Boomkin does massive amounts of DPS. Even on the worst expansions, when people are saying that Boomkin sucks, my Boomkin's always still back there doing massive DPS. You know, I have never felt like the Boomkin sucks, to be honest, you know, like, I have always loved my Boomkin. One thing I will mention is that maining a Druid nowadays is a shit ton easier than it used to be. If you played a Druid back in the day, you may remember that we had to actually take cloth gear as some of our gear because there was nothing really out there for a leather spellcaster. So we were forced to take cloth gear for some of our stuff, which really sucked. Yeah, really sucked, and is probably the biggest reason why there wasn't a whole lot of balanced Druids back then. So thanks, Arsenal, for asking this week's question, and I hope you enjoyed the answer. I know it was a little longer than some future questions will get answered in. I felt like that was more an answer that deserved a little story time. So, so I hope you enjoyed, and that's it for this week's WoW Weekly. So have fun in Shadowlands, guys. And I hope you get some awesome loot in your great vault, and even maybe a legendary. And we will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.